When I was around the second grade, our beloved teacher had a show and tell one day, and I offered that I thought my father's favorite hunting friend was going to come for a visit that day. And I was excited because if he did come, Dad would probably serve him a drink of whiskey, which was not a common event at our house. And they'd let me have a sip. And it felt so good telling that story. But a couple of days later, both the teacher and my father explained a little bit about the facts of life about politics. And they both said, you know, your father is the elected district attorney for the county, and it would not be helpful to his political career to have your classmates go home and tell their parents, oh, Jan Wyers is talking about drinking whiskey at home at the age of 7 or 8. And they didn't scold me. There was no bite to it, but they were actually enlisting my help in helping my father be secure politically. That also, but even before that, my dad had a nickname for me when he was feeling a little bit affectionate toward me. He would call me Steamboat. And I was called Steamboat because when I was in the high chair, he would pour me a little beer in a cup, and I would sit there and bang the cup on the little tray in the high chair, and go, woo, woo, woo. I loved that beer. And from that, he called me Steamboat. Well, alcohol has been a big part of my life. Today, there's an article in the Oregonian about the head of the Oregon Liquor Control Commission retiring early, and it mentions there that his predecessor was sort of driven out of office because it was discovered and investigated by the paper that he was steering very expensive, very old bottles of whiskey into a market where he could pick them off and his friends could pick them off. They weren't even claiming they were stealing them, but that was seen as corruption, and he quit. Well, the reason that tickles me is that back when I was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee in 81 and 83, the man named Brad Swank, who was in charge of getting the files ready for the next day's floor session, complained to me one day that he was having trouble getting the clerks, who were college students, to free up time in the afternoon to help him prepare those files. And he complained to me that the reason he was having trouble rounding them up was that they were in the president's office drinking whiskey with the president. And so now, many years later, this fellow who was one of the president's toadies at the time, who was working there in the president's office, now he's lost his job as the head of OLCC something to do with whiskey. I might add that I drank some whiskey once, only once, but once while I was state senator. And that was the night that we defeated the PGE's bill to kill our initiative to block construction of a couple of more nuclear plants at Boardman, Oregon. And it was a pitched battle on the last night that went late into the night, and I did manage to line up the votes with a little help from Ted Halleck, and we defeated the bill 19-10. And at that point, the session was basically over for me. They go on passing bills without much debate, just flushing them on through, but that was a biggie. And the prominent Republican Tony Meeker had the last session, and then again this session, brought a bottle of wild turkey to be drunk back in the little closet where they have telephones at the back of the Senate chambers. The first time he did it, I didn't imbibe, but after we'd defeated that horrible bill, I just let down totally, and I went back there with him, and drank a bunch of that whiskey and became visibly intoxicated. The mainstream media missed their big chance to smear me by not filming that and putting it on the television. I've always felt like a bullet flew over my head that night, but that's the only time I was drunk in the Capitol. But that's about whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, whiskey will make you feel so frisky. It can help you relax, but it can also destroy you. Enough about when I began to learn about politics.